Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing There's No Murder Like Show Murder, written by MS Greene. And don't worry, I'm not going to sing the tune, I'm not going to make this a musical, even though it's set in a theatre. I'll spare you that torture of me trying to sing There's No Murder Like Show Murder for you. But anyway, the book. It's a cozy mystery. It's the first in a series. It's not the strongest first book in a series. It's not the strongest mystery I've read for cozy mysteries, but it's good enough for a debut. And the protagonist, ticks off a lot of boxes that a cozy mystery protagonist should tick off anyway. So a strong protagonist in a strong enough mystery in a good enough book for the first book in a series. It's fun, it's enjoyable, there's a lot to enjoy in this story, there's a lot to like in this story, and I did enjoy the read. And I like the setting. I've not really read any cozy mysteries set in a theatre before. I'm wondering about the series, how they progress in this small setting in a theatre. I do have questions about that, but I'd like to see how that progress, and I would read more in this series, I think, anyway. Tasha Weaver is our protagonist, and she runs the costume department in this theatre. And the surname Weaver, I think, works well with material, fabric, stitching, making costumes. It's a good surname for a character in this book. Not overly cutesy, not on the nose, just works very well, I think. And in this book, we're also introduced to her crew, the people who work for her in the department, and they're all quite varied. They all got little one-liners through the book as well. We get little bits about their personality. But the thing about this book is, there's too many characters, I think, introduced. Too many characters in a smaller book, and doesn't give those characters kind of room to grow, room to develop, room for us to get to know them in enough detail. That's one of the flaws about this book. I would have liked fewer characters, especially getting to know the people who work with Tasha closely, getting to know more about them. We learn little bits about them, but not in enough detail. And what we do learn is on the surface sometimes, and sometimes a bit cliche. The mystery itself is strong enough for the first book in a series. It is a bit predictable on who the victim is, but many cozy mysteries are like that. We get a person in the book, especially at the start, who's quite rude and abrasive, gets a lot of people offside, and they're the murder victim. Happens in many cozy mysteries. It happens in many long-running cozy mystery series as well. Time and time again in books in a series, it will happen like that. So not a bad thing, I think, in a book, especially a cozy mystery. It's a bit cliche by now, probably a trope by now as well. But if used well and done well in a story, and if the mystery is strong enough, it's okay. And in this book, the mystery is strong enough, I think. So the victim in this book is the leading actor in a play that this theatre is producing. And they need this play to succeed because the theatre's in trouble. It's not making enough money. So all hopes about keeping this theatre running are on this play. So when this actor is found dead, especially being the leading role in the play, there are many suspects. Is somebody out there trying to sabotage the play, trying to destroy the theatre? Or is it somebody in the cast, in the crew? And he's ticked a lot of people off. Is someone in the cast or crew angry enough to commit murder? There's so many suspects in this book, many red herrings, and those red herrings I thought were done very well. And with that big suspect pool, there's many suspects, you're wondering who's guilty. And of course, a cozy mystery, we have to have an investigator who's not in the police force. Usually that's how it happens. I know some cozy mysteries, on some occasions, the investigator is in the police force. One big example is Hamish Macbeth, that series. Hamish is a police officer. But most cozy mysteries I read, the investigator is not in law enforcement at all. And Tasha Weaver is our protagonist, so we have somebody who usually makes costumes, or helps to make costumes, and she's trying to solve a mystery. Very exciting in the story the way it's done. It's fun, it's enjoyable. There are laughs in this book. There are good moments with the characters, good interactions. And I can see many characters in this book that I can kind of pinpoint them to be developed further in a series. And even already after the first book, I'm looking at characters in this book and I'm wondering, is some of these characters going to be future suspects or victims? Because it happens in many cozy mystery series. So now whenever I start a new series, I think about those characters and wonder who's next. What's going to happen next for those characters, even small characters, because in cozy mystery series, the authors sometimes take those small characters, bring them to life a lot more in a book, and maybe then decide to make them a suspect or even a victim. Sometimes it's cruel to think like that happens sometimes, but it makes it more fun and enjoyable, and just opens up and builds up that world that the author's trying to build up in the series. And what I liked about this mystery is outside forces play a big role. We have one guy called Garrison Miller, and about a year ago in the history of this world before this book, he was trying to buy out the theatre building. He was trying to buy it out and turn it into something else. And that makes him a big suspect in this story. It adds different layers into this mystery, makes it feel more real, gives it more legs, if you will, and I like that. I like that we've got a bigger stage for the author to work on. We've got different characters coming in from stage left or stage right, and those scenes are just painted differently because of those outside forces. I like that. I liked the way it's handled. Those suspects become bigger because of it. You wonder, is it a red herring? Is it a true suspect? Many forces at play. And I like that because it gives you just more questions in the mystery. It makes the mystery stronger. I really enjoyed the setting in this story. I don't think I've read a cozy mystery series yet set in a theatre. Not for the main setting anyway. I do wonder though, if this book becomes a series, and I hope it does, I wonder how they'll play out in future books. How many crimes can take place in the one theatre? Or are we going to have outside crimes just linked to the theatre in some way? I'm not sure. I'm interested to find out. I want to read more in this series, and hopefully I will. Hopefully more books are written soon, because I think the protagonist and the characters, the setting, the mystery, all those elements are strong enough to just demand more books in this series. Of course, the first character I have to mention is the protagonist, Tasha. I liked her in this book. As a protagonist, she ticks so many boxes. She's inquisitive, she's stubborn, she's nosy, she likes to ferret out clues and talk to people. But I also like the way she's learning. She's learning to investigate. She starts off a bit stumbly, not sure of herself, not sure how to go about things, but she starts to learn. And that makes her feel more real. You can't start out a cozy mystery series, I think, and have the protagonist who has no idea how to solve crimes or investigate crimes usually. To have them start out as perfect in the first place doesn't make sense. Make them fumble around and make mistakes at the start. Make them awkward when they talk to people trying to find out information from people. Make them startled and surprised as they learn new things about people or uncover new clues. All that makes sense in a cozy mystery series, especially at the start. And it made sense with this character. And it made Tasha a great character in this story. Garrison is the rich guy from outside who's trying to buy out the theatre. And he's still trying to buy it out now, even in this book. He hasn't stopped. That makes him a great character and very engaging in this book because he becomes a suspect. Is he a red herring or a true suspect? I'm not going to tell you, but it makes him stand out a lot. And he's unlikable because of it. He's unlikable in many ways in the story actually, but you need characters like that. I've mentioned before in other videos, you need unlikable characters sometimes. You don't have to like every character in a story. Unlikable characters are okay because they drive certain things in a book for our protagonist and other characters. They drive dialogue and actions. They drive many things in a story. You need them sometimes, and this character Garrison is written to play that unlikable role very well. Bruno is one of the more detailed and described support characters in this book. He works in the theatre, different department to Tasha. It seems he's going to be the romantic character for Tasha, the romantic side in this book, in this series even. But I'm wondering where that will go. How long will that take to develop? Because it seems like we've got the start of that in this book. They've got history together, and Tasha thinks about the history even before this book, thinks about their history together as well. And that gives Bruno more life in the story, more layers and more complexity. I like him in this book. I like the way he speaks in the story. I like his character. I like the way he carries himself. I like their interactions in the book. I think he'd be a great character in this series. But I do wonder what's next for Bruno in this series. Will he help Tasha solve crimes? Will Bruno ever become a suspect? Will the author be cruel enough and make Bruno a victim? I don't know. I think there's many ways to develop Bruno as a character. I think there's scope and room for him to grow in the series. And I'm wondering how that will occur. So I'm interested to see, even in book 2, what's in store for Bruno. This book is a fun and enjoyable read. It's a good book for a first book in a series, a good debut book. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5. Not the strongest first book I've read, but it's strong enough. And the characters are strong enough as well, especially the protagonist. But I just need more about some of the support characters in this book. And I hope in future books those support characters are just detailed more and described more. Give them more life, more substance. On my channel, I review many cozy mysteries. Check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.